What's up, guys? Taylor with TK Disc Golf, and MVP Steve himself announced quite a few bombshells to talk about on the MVP fan page, things including Gyro X, a half dozen new molds from MVP, Axiom and Streamline. So there's a lot to talk about in this video, so let's get started. And so the first thing that Steve did mention is the reason they were announcing these so early is because they wanted to basically take claim to the names that they're calling these discs. As they've explained in the past, when they make a mold, they engrave the name into the mold right off the bat. They don't do that after the fact. So if they get into a weird pickle where another brand, let's say Latitude, Discraft, whomever, picks a name and just beats them to the punch for whatever the name is. Let's say they wanted to call it Mario or something like that. If another brand beats them to that name, then MVP would actually have to make an entirely new mold based around that name. They can't just like scratch it off and change it to whatever they want. They got to make an entirely new mold. So they wanted to get all of these discs out there and say, hey, these are the names, we're claiming to them. Let's get them PDGA approved. And whenever we're able to get to them, once we can get our inventory back up to a normal level, then we will release these new molds. So they haven't announced an official release date yet, but it will, hopefully we at least see a couple of these this year, most likely would be my guess. Again, that's kind of just an assumption, but we should be able to see a couple of these this year. The first disc we're going to look at is actually called Echo, and it is from Streamline Discs. This is a 5-speed mid-range, and the picture that they posted is in Proton Plastic. That's literally all the information we have. Each disc got like a side profile, a frontal profile, and then just a prototype stamp on it, and then a very brief description, maybe showing the speed. But for this one, the side profile is looking a lot like a Buzz. That's what a lot of the comments are saying on the MVP fan page, so I know a lot of people are going to be super excited about that. Moving on to the Jet from Streamline. This is an 11-speed distance driver, more of a controlled driver speed, and it is going to be a nice complement to the Trace. Looking at the side profile that's in the picture provided, I would definitely call it a little bit more understable than the current Trace. I wouldn't call it anywhere near like the stability of a Flare. That thing's just insane. So I think based on what we have in the lineup so far, this will probably be more understable compared to any of the distance drivers from Streamline so far. Moving on to the Axiom lineup, the first one is the Hex. It is a 5-speed mid-range, and they didn't really give too much information about its flight or where they intend to slot this one. But just by looking at the side profile, it honestly looks a lot like the MVP Tangent to me. This is just my opinion. I've seen some other theories floating around on the fan page, but if we could get a nice, slightly understable mid-range from Axiom, I think that would be a great start for their first mid-range in quite a while. They did the Pyro a couple years ago in Prism Plastic, and the Hex also, I can't tell. The rim looks really shiny in the picture, but I can't tell if it's clear Prism Plastic or not, so we'll just have to see what they come up with. But moving on to the second disc from Axiom that they announced is the Rhythm. It's a 7-speed fairway driver, and looking at these pictures, it definitely looks like the highest PLH so far, and honestly, in my opinion, I want this to be a more glidey resistor, something that you can just absolutely smash on into a headwind that glides forever at that speed and then will predictably fade back without any risk to rolling this thing into a headwind. That would be amazing. I have a super beat up resistor that I love, but if I could have one that flies that way right out of the box instead of having to beat one in I've got a 3013 Destination Stamp resistor in my bag, and it's been in my bag since 2013, so it is super beat up. If the Rhythm is able to replace that just fresh out of the bag, that would be so nice. But finally, moving on to the MVP discs that were announced. The first one is a fairway driver called Cipher, and it's a 7-speed, and I've seen a lot of comments on the fan page, people really freaking out and excited because they think this looks like their long-lost Clash. There was a lot of cult following for the Clash, and that was one of the molds that was discontinued a couple years ago, and people have just been missing that fairway driver. It's a nice, straight fairway driver with a very predictable fade, something that the Crave just doesn't hold up to sometimes. The Crave will get a lot more high-speed turn than the Clash. Clash just is a very predictable point, shoot, fade, fairway driver, a lot kind of like a Tesla, but slower. So that's what I'm seeing too, looking at the profile of that rim. So we'll have to see what they come up with and how they slot this one when it's officially announced. But ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the main event. We're moving on to the Beam from MVP Disc Sports. It's a 12-speed distance driver in their new Gyro X plastic configuration. I don't know. They've been teasing Gyro X for many years. I first heard of it in 2017, 2018. They had it in one of their year in review catalogs that got sent out to dealers, and you were flipping through the thing, looking at all the discs they have available, and all of a sudden you flip to the middle of the page and boom, right there in front of you, big giant letters, Gyro X TM, and that's all it said. And for a couple years, no more word of it was mentioned. I'm assuming just in the background they were quietly tinkering and testing it out, trying to make it as perfect as possible. And in 2020, for the year in review video that Brad and Chad did for Gyropalooza 2020, the virtual version, they, I believe, mentioned Gyro X again. And here it is, right in front of us. The first disc in this lineup is the Beam. And first thing I notice is how insanely massive the overmold is on that distance driver. I've got a Tantrum sitting right next to me at my desk at work, and looking at the rim of that, it takes up about half the rim, but looking at the picture of the Beam, it takes up, gosh, I don't know, 80% of the entire rim that you hold on to. So what this means, we don't really know yet. I've seen a lot of comments saying, oh, it says here that they're going to be enhancing Gyro TM, I believe is the exact wording. Let me scroll back up to it. They're going to, an enhanced gyro lineup. So enhanced means a couple different things. I mean, it could be a floating rim. That was my first guess many, many years ago. Don't quote me on that. I have no reason to believe this at all. But, I mean, maybe we're going to get a floating distance driver. I have no idea. I mean, maybe it's more weight to the rim, but honestly, that would kind of be I wouldn't say undermining, but just it would be duplicating work. They've been working so hard on their fission plastic. I don't know why they would do Gyro X as an even heavier rim. That wouldn't make much sense to me. Or maybe they're trying to launch some rockets to space just like SpaceX, and they just have a disc on there called the Beam just to throw us off their scent so they can get to Mars before Elon. So that would be, honestly, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibilities. Brad and Chad are two smart dudes. One of them's an engineer and the other one's a crazy mathematician. So they could probably build a rocket and get us to Mars just as easily as Elon could. It wouldn't surprise me. Man, oh man, that has me excited. 6 new discs announced from MVP and Axiom and Streamline. Shoo. I don't even know what else to say. Those things look awesome. I'm really excited. I think the one I'm most excited for might be the Rhythm really intrigues me, but I also want to see the Hex too. Just those two. I want to have an understable mid-range, and seeing the Hex, that has me really excited for that one. But drop a comment and let me know, do you think I'm pretty on point, or do you think I'm off in a couple of the assumptions that I made? Do you think the Gyro X could be something different besides a floating driver, or MVP getting us to the moon? That would be pretty sweet too. So yeah, drop a comment, let me know your thoughts. And again, don't forget to subscribe. We're really trying to grow our channel this year. And if there's anybody you know that's interested in MVP discs, recommend them our channel. We've got lots of review videos for, I would say, over half of the discs available from that lineup. So again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.